Hello, everyone, and start again. Hello, everyone, and welcome to Let's Talk HR. I am joined today by Rory Berry, Roaring Berry, as we are going to give our top 5 each. We're both going to give 5 each things we think organisations should consider when it comes to staff retention. These are not an exhaustive list, and the 5 is not in any particular order because the conversation may take us in different directions. We cannot steal each other's answers. So what Rory says, I can't then say and go, yes, that's a very good point. In fact, I'm going to give that as one of my top 5. They have to be different. And we're going to make it a bit of a fun video. So, Rory, how are you doing? Are you ready? Have you got a list? Checked it twice?
I've got a list. I've checked it 3 times. I'm as ready as I'll ever be. And I'm excited to see where this adventure takes us, because based on our previous chats, I'm sure it'll be a meandering journey.
For anyone who hasn't worked with Rory before, Rory calls his meetings brain jams.
Yeah.
And this crazy idea came from one of those brain jams, which is why Yoda's looking over us in the background to ensure that we impart good knowledge and information. But, we'll jump right into it. Company rings you up, says, Rory, I need some help with retention. I know you're the retention specialist. What's the first thing that you tell them? What's number 1 on your list of what organizations should be doing to improve staff retention?
The first thing I would say to them is we need to look at the processes. And people always assume that processes have got nothing to do, and systems processes, all of the fun paperwork things that everybody loves to do and fill in. They think it's got nothing to do with staff retention. And yet, it's got everything to do with staff retention, because it's those little, seemingly silly things that get mistaken or left out or not executed properly that start people on a disengagement journey, which then obviously makes it harder for them to be retained as a staff member. A classic example is on the first day with somebody joining. Let's just say people are going into a physical environment in this example, and they need a key card to get in the front door. The number of times I've asked people, and how do they get the key card? Oh, no, I'll give it to them when I meet them. Where will you meet them? In reception, which is where? Through the door, which they can't get through because they don't have their key card.
Yeah, the laptop's the big one, isn't it? The laptop's always the big one. The laptop's never ready, or it is ready, and no one can access anything because, HR have got to contact IT. IT have got to go back to HR. They've got to create an account, and someone just... You feel like the new kid at school, don't you, with your bright red lunchbox all day going, are they really this disorganized?
Yeah. Look at my handy paperweight. I can't work on it, but it does hold my papers down on my desk lovely. You're totally right. And I think that we shouldn't get it wrong. And if you've got a process which involves an onboarding checklist, which says 1 week out, hiring manager gets new laptop to check it. 3 days out, any niggles have been signed off. Day before it's been turned on, rechecked by an independent person. These things don't take exhaustive amounts of time, but what they do save is an incredible amount of time, wasted time, getting people back on board and up to speed.
Now, I think there was a stat, and this is, do not quote me on this stat, but I think there was one that we saw recently that we had a conversation about, which is 27% of people, or 25%, between 20-something% of people leave an organization because of a bad induction and onboarding process.
Yeah.
Like they've made that decision. They've checked out before they've even started.
Yeah.
And how much money could that cost, really?
Well, big, scary numbers.
Yeah.
And you're totally right. I think the stat was 27% of people that leave businesses cited a bad onboarding process as a major cause of their disengagement and ultimately exiting the business. 1 in 4 people that you hire could leave because you balked the onboarding.
Or want to. You know, people come with good intentions, don't they? But even if they're not giving their all, you've got a percentage drop in quality, even if they've not left yet. So it's so important.
Yeah. Because engagement equals productivity, and productivity equals, well, let's be brutal, money on the bottom line.
Yeah. My number one is transparency.
Ooh.
I think if you want to retain staff, everyone needs to know what's going on with the business, and you need to be transparent. This is our challenges. This is what's going on. This is how we're going to fare. This is the changes that are going to happen. When one of the previous businesses I worked in, a new competitor came in, big investment capitalist firm, huge money behind them. They were going to disrupt the market regardless. Partnership with the governing body. They were going to take market share because they were brought in to have the market share. And I had to stand up in front of everyone and say, look, this is what's going to happen. This is what they're going to do. These are the walls that we're going to build. These are the things that we're going to do to protect it. This is what might happen. And then we reported on everything that happened that was right and that was wrong, and we kept it transparent, and people were engaged. But just saying, you know, some big scary new competitor comes in your world and you don't say anything to anyone, or you're doing really well and you don't say anything to anyone.
Yeah.
The lack of transparency just gives no one something to follow, in my view. So my number one is transparency.
Yeah, I think that the real key there is it's the right amount of transparency to give encouragement and motivation, and you don't want to overshare and then cause anxiety. So there is that beautiful, nuanced, fine line. And without the correct amount of sharing, you're totally right. There's what's really going on? What are they not telling us? Kind of sort of thing that's percolating. But if it's too much of an overshare, then it's is my job okay? Should I leave? And then you can end up disengaging a team by trying to engage them through oversharing.
But for me, part of that comes down into the confidence they have in that leader and their plan, and the transparency of that plan to keep them on track.
Yes.
I think sometimes bad news can combine people together in a really positive way and make really improve productivity for a short period of time. I don't think it can be a long-term tactic.
Yeah.
For a short period of time, you can attack a competitor. I had someone with a limo outside trying to take international students around the corner to their venue. And I agree, oversharing without a plan, it needs to have a plan. If you're going to be really brutally honest, you need to be able to reassure people immediately that you know what you're doing. Yes.
So I guess the key with the transparency is much like with stand-up comedy. It's all in the delivery. Because without the correct delivery and the right intention, and this is exactly what you're saying in terms of, because if it's done with the right intention and the correct delivery, it will have that galvanizing effect that you want.
Yeah.
If it is a reactionary, fear-driven transparency from the top, you will lose your team.
Yeah, I completely agree.
Fact.
So, number one, I've completely forgotten.
Processes, procedures.
Processes. We've got processes, onboarding. 27, you could lose a quarter of your staff before you've even kicked a ball.
Yeah.
And then we've got transparency, letting everyone know where their career is going, what's going on, how the business is performing, how their cog is essential in the overall machine of the business.
Yes.
Okay. Rory, number 2 for you.
The power of external eyes.
Ooh.
Now, I go into a business if I'm going to help them, and it's quite funny. I always say, I don't care about your politics. I don't. I'm not there to pick sides or help work that one out because they annoy you or. Like, I'm there to pull a Shrek, peel back the layers of the onion, and find the stuff that needs to be found because it's either been hidden or ignored or totally just missed because of our confirmation bias, because we're in a space all the time. My favorite question to ask is, why is this happening? My worst answer to hear is because that's how we've always done it.
The classic.
My stock answer to that is, I'm sorry, that's the wrong answer. Please try again. Now, if that's the way we've always done it because we've researched it's the most efficient and that's fine. It might be the best way to do it because research backs up. But if it's because that's just what we do on Thursdays, sorry, no. And the only way you see that is with external, impartial eyes whose entire job is there to help.
I'm going to put another phrase that people say in with that, which is, we've tried it, didn't work.
Ooh.
Which,
ooh.
I mean, a lot of things fail on implementation, don't they?
Yes.
A lot of things fail. But that doesn't mean sometimes it's the implementation that's failed, not the idea.
Yes.
And you need to relook at so them impartial eyes can say, well, actually, I've done this over here and this over here, and this is the evidence I've got of it working.
Yes.
Why don't you think it's not going to work in this instance?
Yeah.
Why have you always done it that way? And I completely agree. Sometimes you just need someone to give you a bit of a shake and go, well, actually, maybe we could try something different.
Yeah. And it's also a common misconception that, especially if you're coming in as the external consultant, you're there on a witch hunt.
Oh,
total rubbish.
Ryan didn't bring cakes in on his birthday.
Exactly. Like, no, you're there to help, and you're there to enhance the great stuff to another level, and then raise the not so great stuff to another level. It's not sort of tarring and feathering and public flogging. I mean, unless it's needed, but but it's absolutely the intention of external eyes. We're there to help shine a light on things that could be enhanced, no matter where they sit in the operational excellence of a business. And it's those things that show, and this is the key, that show your staff that you care enough about finding those blind spots, which means they will engage with both the external consultant and your business more, because they know that you actually take it seriously, which then increases engagement, which increases retention.
Completely makes sense. My number two, and just to remind everyone, this is not 1 to 5 in perfect order in terms of, this is the most important, this is the least important, just do these 10 things, everything's going to be peachy in the world. Every business has its uniqueness. But my number two is based on a lot of information that I've been reading at the moment with regards to people returning from maternity leave. Businesses need to have a plan to retain incredibly talented people that you have valued and grown and invested in when they return from maternity leave. 78% of women leave within 2 years of coming back from maternity leave. That is because organizations do not have a plan, a retention plan, a growth plan, a recoursing plan. Do you want to go up the ladder? Do you want to go down the ladder? Do you want to stay where you are? National survey of childbirth in the UK, 1 in 3 women feel have been discriminated against by their employer after having a baby. 1 in 3.
Wow.
And, there's a lot of gender debate and stuff like that going on at the moment, but this is an element of something where, paternity leave we need more of. We've talked about that, but this is something that needs a really specific focus on by businesses for me. If you want to retain talent, you have incredible talent, and when they come back, admin tasks increase 44%. You've put someone above them normally in these situations, and they feel like they're trapped and they need to leave. If businesses had a plan to maximize the talent that's returning, make them feel like they're going to be invested in to get back up to speed, not only would those organizations improve, generalized economy, in my view, would improve, because
the thing is, it's a brain drain.
Yeah, I mean, you're nervous, aren't you? You're coming back. You're like, I've not been there for a year. You come back, you're devalued.
Yeah.
You don't feel like you're worth the position anyway. There's a big anxiety and confidence difference in men and women in the workplace. So you're devalued. You've got that anxiety coming back. You're already feeling guilty because you feel you should be at home and you feel you should be at work. So you're torn, and then you're devalued. So if businesses put this plan together, organizations would improve.
And I think as an extension of that, identity is a crazy thing. And now, obviously, I'm not a mom. But what I have experienced talking to and coaching a lot of ladies that have become mums is the identity shift from X title to mum sometimes makes them feel like less of a person. Now, obviously, these are sweeping generalizations, and I'm in no way, shape, or form judging anyone. These are just experiences that I've had coaching people in these situations. And so they've felt, without any coaching support, like they are just seen as a mum, and said title isn't as important as the previous one. Now,
yeah,
I mean, yes, we could go on and on, but I think that if businesses, as part of helping people return from maternity, offered coaching, life coaching, exec coaching to these people, they don't have to take it on, but just offer it.
It's such a huge transition, you know, and like you feel like if you've been away for a year, just to maximize it out in terms of if you feel like you've been away for a year, and you know you'll have maybe 15% of the workforce has changed, people have left, you know, due to, and some systems might be, you can feel disconnected, but just having a plan, that's it for me. Whether it's coaching, whether it's integration, you know, the value of their brain is still the value of their brain.
Yep.
So they still have exactly the same value from day one of going on maternity leave to day 365 when they return.
Yep.
And whilst obviously two men can't go into mass details on it in terms of the emotional element, the obviousness of a business and the obviousness of these stats demonstrate to us that from a retention perspective, there needs to be more of a plan, because I've been senior up in a business and we've never had a plan. Yeah.
And that's the thing. Having the conversation means we can get the plan. Yeah. Having the plan means that people can be better looked after. And ultimately, if we want to oversimplify everything about staff retention, look after your people better.
Yeah. So number 2 for us both, you've got impartial eyes. Sometimes getting an impartial view of a process and information, how you're doing something, looking at your process is got massive value in terms of just knowing if you're doing all the right things and getting challenged. There's nothing wrong with being challenged. You should welcome it. Number 2 for me is maternity return. You will increase staff retention. We will increase staff retention in the economy if we all had a better plan for people returning to work from a long time on maternity.
Yes.
Rory, number 3.
So my number 3 is pseudo tied to my number 1. And that is fractional chief people officers, especially for growing businesses. Now, there's different people that have different descriptions and definitions of all of these things. So what do I mean when I say that? For me, a chief people officer is the bridge, the link between your operational strategic planning in your business and your HR team, people, squad processes. There is a bit that needs to link them. Now, I'm not saying that HR folks can't do the linking. I'm not saying that operational people can't do the linking either, or can't do a percentage of this. But having somebody that's dedicated to your people processes and your people strategy, the kind of people that look at a stat which says 27% of people that leave cite a bad onboarding process and go, well, we need to review our onboarding process. The kind of people that look at a stat that says 70 bajillion% of scary numbers high, people that have been on maternity leave within 2 years of returning, they are strategically and operationally thinking about the big picture of the business's people strategy and people planning. And the reason I say fractional version, because some people say part-time, some people say consultant. We can insert once again a title here. Not all businesses need somebody full-time in that role, but having somebody no time in that role is not good for your staff retention and not good for your people processes and your long-term growth. A classic example that I used recently, and I think we might have even been chatting about it as well. Do people know how long it takes for a new starter to get up to speed? That's data. Oh, it takes them 3 months to get up to speed. Okay, when are you thinking about hiring your new person? Are we going to have operational capacity need in a month? Okay, we've got a 2-month lag because you're going to employ someone in a month because you need them in a month. So if I employed them today, I'm a month behind. If I employ them in a month, I'm 3 months behind. These are the kinds of things that chief people officers that are in a operational, strategic, intentional mindset about this stuff will look at and go, we're going to need people in 3 months. It takes us 3 months to get people up to speed. We need to be hiring now.
And this isn't, I mean, you talk brilliantly about fractional CPO, but this isn't new.
No.
If you go to any accountancy firm, law firm, and you're trying to do a big business change, I will tell you now from working in HR qualifications, we've trained loads of them. I've trained people in tax qualifications and HR qualifications because they're going to look at tax benefits and how you can use staff to do that and what you can do with changing a business. Accountants, we'll strip people out, we'll bring people. It's a very consultative way. And it's a way, I mean, when I mentioned it to you, I said, if a company's going through a big change, let's say, unfortunately, it's a mass redundancy situation, well, they'll see the person at the top as death with his scythe and his hood, and how are you going to rebuild some trust and information? Well, maybe you bring in a fractional CPO to sort of go, right, well, how are we going to get over this remorse? How are we going to rebuild this culture? Because culture eats strategy for breakfast and everything like that. How are we going to make the positive changes that we need? And then after the bad stuff's gone, we reintegrate. It's not always a long-term thing. Sometimes it's just a short-term element, isn't it?
Absolutely. It's an intentional intervention for a period of time. Now, sometimes people go, we really like you, can you stay? And that's a conversation that they have. But it is more often than not, come in, potentially help a restructure, help a that restructure could be down or up, which is key. And any of these things, and then put strategies in place, potentially even train up and or recruit their replacement. Sort of give a sign off, and off they pop. And I think the one thing that you mentioned there about the restructuring and it's not necessarily a full point, but it's a side point. Survivor's guilt.
Yeah.
When you have restructures, if you don't think about ways to acknowledge survivor's guilt in your team, you can actually disengage the people that you kept and lose them too.
And it goes back to my first point: transparency, them knowing what the plan is after it, and everything that goes with it. All elements of what we talked about so far have a really important element in retention. So even if you just take one element and you try to connect them all together, they're all connected.
Yeah. What's your number 3, boss?
My number 3 is a single question.
Ooh.
I'm gonna take attention to a single question. I've got to give Michelle Reed credit for this question.
Okay.
Which is, how can we help you do better? It's brilliant in its simplicity. Just go round. It doesn't matter if you don't understand what they do. It doesn't matter if what they do is so techie, and it's just understand. How can I help you do better?
Yeah.
Take the information. How would that work? Help people build out plans for how it can improve. And you know what? You might actually just help an entire business improve. And this question comes into a really important element of people have been heard. People have been heard and they understand the reasons why you have or haven't done something, because you've asked the question and you've heard them, not listened to them, you will retain staff better.
I think the extension of that heard versus listen, I often use the phrase, are you listening to reply or are you listening to understand?
Yeah.
Especially when talking to managers. Because if you're in a firefighting mindset and somebody comes to you, you're just going to make a snap judgment based on the first half of the sentence.
Yep.
Not listen. And you're just going to reply. Whereas if you just take that brief second, just a brief second, to fully listen and then reply, you also save time. Because then there's no, but what I said, no, but what you said, no, but then I said, well, if you listen to the thing the first time, we wouldn't have had the 17 extra statements. It's quite cool. I like that phrase. It reminds me of something that I was taught when I worked in a restaurant many years ago.
Do you want fries with that?
Almost. It was our go-to question when we had to de-escalate a situation with an upset client. And it was this: what's the one thing I can do right now to make this better for you? And what it did was it focused on a point, as opposed to everything's on fire, I hate everything. Rah, 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 rah. I want a free ice cream. Okay, I can make that happen.
I want ice cream now.
I apologize.
I'm getting a sausage roll and an ice cream after this. Nobody knew about the sausage roll part, but that was the conversation before we went live.
Come on, Greggs.
I'm getting a sausage roll and an ice cream.
Other locations are available. This is not an official endorsement of any brand.
So, number 3 for both of us, fractional CPOs and how you can utilize people to come in and deal with a small element will help keep a business functioning and help with your retention and specific projects, even if it's processes or redundancy, or if something feels like it's clunky, get someone else to look at it and bring someone else in to just have a bit of a move around. And my number 3 was just a basic question given by Michelle Reed, which I've got to give her credit for that because I can't take all the credit for it. I mean, I could, but I won't. Rory, number 4.
So you said the word in a statement you used about it eating strategy for breakfast. Culture. The environment that you create has to be nurtured, intentional. Dare one say the words I've used more than once today: strategic and operational. Culture is everything. It can literally make and break a business, especially as one is growing. And something that's so easy to get wrong, especially as businesses grow beyond, I'd say, 5 to 10, because at 5 to 10, people can chirp each other a little bit easier and sort of give verbal flat hands where needed, and or sidle up next to and give someone a proverbial cuddle, because obviously not everyone's the personal bubble invader. But I think the key is culture, values, vision, mission. It's all one big melting pot. What are your values? They're on the wall. That's not your values. That's words on a piece of paper that you've stuck on the wall. Do you live them? Sometimes, so they're not your values. When there is, I love the word congruence, that's whole symmetry of stuff. When things aren't feeling congruent, so this is our vision, but this is actually what we do. These are our values, but this is actually how we behave. This is what we say we do, but this is what we actually do. People can't buy in and drink the proverbial Kool-Aid, which means they feel disconnected, which means they feel disengaged, which means they're going to disengage, which means they're going to leave. Now, that might take 18 months, but do you really want to have somebody in your business who's kind of half there just because you said, on Fridays, we will do X thing, and then didn't do it for 3 weeks because you just didn't feel like it as the boss? Sorry, chum. If you've made a promise to the team and you're not doing it, you need to, what was that word you used? Be transparent with your communication and tell them why. Guys, I know we said we were going to go climbing mountains this week, but I broke my ankle. So is it okay if we don't for a couple of weeks? Instead, we're going to do a group immersive movie experience where I can hobble along on crutches. Communication is overcomplicated and as a result messed up. They think they need to say, actually, much like your beautiful question from the wonderful Michelle, simple. Keep it simple. Communicate it well. But say you're going to do something and then do it. And your culture then becomes a place where everyone is, and this one is hard, especially for founders. Everyone becomes the custodian of the culture. And it's bigger than everyone, including you, the founder person. Sorry.
It's not a culture. If it's a dictatorship culture, that's what you're creating. If it's I say you do. Now, does anyone really want to be under that situation? It's nobody enjoys it, do they? Nobody wants to just be beaten and verbally, do this. It's if a company becomes a we from an I, it's infinitely more chance of success because we are trying to fix it as opposed to you are trying to fix it.
Exactly. I mean, I'm not sure if I've ever shared this with you before, but it seems very relevant in this moment. I've done a lot of improv in my time.
I can believe it.
And one of the key tenets of improv is this. If we're in a scene together on stage, it's my job to make you look good. And it's your job to make me look good. So we have to park the two most dangerous things in the world, our ego and our agenda. And there's this beautiful shift from me to we. It's why I share this when I'm talking in businesses and about how improv can help their business. Imagine if every single business had a mindset of me to we. How amazing would the planet be?
There's a structural element to businesses that stop that from happening. And yes, you could implement another structure and stuff like that, but a hierarchical structure, which is the majority of organizations, mean you end up with 5 people fighting for one job. And we've all seen Hunger Games, so we know what goes down there. And it's a real shame because if you can get that me to we, and the more of an organization that you promote me to we and how we work together, and then they're going to want the leader to be that person. So that there is ways you can improve it, but unfortunately, with most organizations having that hierarchical structure, it's a constant battle for success, and it should be.
It is, but it also doesn't mean it's an impossible success to achieve. Because when it's properly implemented, and I mean properly DNA level in a business implemented, it means that if we have a no mobile phones on the desk in the office policy, and I'm 3 days in and I walk into your office and you've been there for 5 years and your phone's on the desk, I'm allowed to ask why your phone's there. Because that's what we believe. Now, you could have a legitimate reason for having it there. Well, actually, my uncle is about to break a world record and he's going to phone me when he does it. Well, that's amazing. Tell me about that. Blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
But everyone in a business becomes the custodian so that anyone can be going, we don't do that here, when people are out of line. And that is the kind of culture that retains people, because everyone is on the same bus, driving in the same direction, and acknowledging the fact that their bus isn't everyone's bus.
It's the Team Sky approach to winning the World Cup. Not Team Sky, sorry, the English Rugby World Cup plan.
Yeah.
Sir Clive Woodward, where everyone rocked into the first meeting on the phones, wearing different kits, just turning up late, and they created a set of rules that everyone was going to abide to. Yeah. No phones, everyone wears team kit, everyone turns up early, everyone gives 100, and they created these set of rules because they all wanted the same goal, which was to win the World Cup.
Yeah,
and they created that culture of self-policing, and that's why a lot of sports teams have fines and stuff like that to try and create a culture of fun. If you break the rules, okay, you get punished for it, but it's not the end of the world type punishment, like you're out of a job. It's financial, swear jars, all those types of things are good attempts to build collaborative, self-managing culture.
Yeah, that self-regulation is key, but also, even though we would hate to admit it, we all want the structure.
Yeah.
Even though we all rebel against the very thing that we want, but that's a whole different mind game of fun. But every single one of us, regardless of how old or young we are, actually crave structure on some level of that descriptor, depending on personality type and. But we all want structure and we all want attention.
Yeah, structure is a measure of progress.
Yeah.
And you want to see what your progress is, because everyone wants to do better. The majority of, like, even if you've gone, I don't have the energy for it, and you're depressed and you're struggling, everyone still dreams of doing better. Okay, number 4 for me, unsurprisingly, training.
Hey!
Yeah, big shock. Training company, believe in training. But according to a study done by LinkedIn, 94% of employees say that they would stay at a company longer if they invested in their career development.
Yep.
Now, this connects to multiple things that we've said, when we talk about people returning from maternity leave or culture or but investing in training is cheaper 99.9% of the time than recruitment fees.
Oh, 100% of the time.
And training contracts that come with it, you have a longer term commitment, you've invested in them, they've invested in you. So for anyone that's never done a training contract before, you say, right, this course lasts a year, therefore you need to stay for the year, you need to stay plus 18 months, otherwise you've got to pay back 100% in the first year of it whilst you're studying, 50% once you finish, and after 18 months, free, because we've all benefited. You've benefited from the study, I've benefited from your increased knowledge, everyone's moved forward. And that's the benefit of a training contract. And I'm a big fan. Some people hate them. I think it's just a contract of commitment.
I think training is mission critical on like so many levels of layers. Because one of the things that really winds me up is when you have people go, what if I train them and they leave? Well, my response is always, what if you don't and they stay? Sorry, it's painful to hear, and I'm sorry for any potential new business owners or new managers hearing what I'm about to say if this stings. People are going to leave. It's your job to actually help them leave if it's the right move for them in their career. Because it's your job as a manager or a leader of people to help people achieve the very best that they can under your leadership and under your guidance, mentoring, insert terminology here. And so if that means that after 3 years of having an absolute amazing employee, they come to you and go, this is what I'd like to do, and you realize that means this could not work for what we do anymore, then what you're going to do is you're going to help them move on. You're not going to try and keep them because, oh, it's going to be a faff to try and replace them. No, it's going to be a faff to keep them if they then feel like they're being held, captured, restricted. Well, guess what happens then? Disengagement. Well, guess what happens then? People leave. No retention. It's train them. Keep them as long as you can, but train them to the highest possible standard so you can get the absolute best out of them.
Well, ATD did, which is Association for Talent Development, they did an investment, like investment in training compared to companies that don't invest in training. And training and development forward companies had a 24% higher profit margin. Not turnover, profit.
Yeah.
Better trained people provide better results. It's not complicated. And sometimes, investing, you've got to wait for that return. But the more people you invest in, the better your return is going to be.
Absolutely.
And therefore, for me, staff retention is always going to be about investing in training because, SHRM, PwC found that millennials, 52% say that they'd stay longer if there was training. LinkedIn, 94%. People want to stay.
Yes.
People don't want to be the new kid at school, walking in with their lunchbox and everyone going, am I going to make friends here or anything? People would prefer 80% of the time to stay where they are, but they just want to be valued.
There's the key. They just want to be valued. And I think that the assumption that everyone wants to move jobs every 5 minutes also needs to be potentially shut down a bit now, because more and more people are actually quite enjoying finding places that they can stay for longer than 5 minutes. Yes, there's generational differences. Yes. We can play both sides of that coin all day if we want. But ultimately, people want to feel valued. They want to be invested in so that they can feel like they're invested in the place that they are working in.
So for number 4, we've got culture and creating a culture of we, not me. And then we've got training, investing in people so that they retain longer. Number 5, Rory, the last one, your last hurrah. Closing the show. Well,
there's so many that I want to say, but what I'm going to talk about is play. Because play, and by extension creativity, is something that I think has been demonized in the business place, because people sort of think it's all bollocks and banter and rubbish and shenanigans. No, play can be any number of options and offerings that you can bring into the workplace. So a playful environment is a warm, loud, not negative loud, but energy loud and immersive and beautiful place. We as big children don't get enough time to play. We get this weird thing where we flick a switch somewhere along the line that says, I'm a grown-up, I can't have fun anymore. I must be serious, I can't play. And so we shut down a percentage of who we are, and then we try and operate at 150%. Now, I'm not an accountant, but I can tell you that maths doesn't work. And so when we bring creativity and play, things like improv, Lego, which I use a lot in my workshops, it changes the game. And you have faster learning, you have deeper learning, and you have a longer retention rate. And it's beyond powerful. And I think that we need to stop demonizing the word play and fun in business. And it needs to be brought back so that we can have warm, encouraging, wonderful environments that are productive, profitable, and all of the magic involved.
I think it's been demonized because of forced fun.
Yes.
And there's so much forced fun. Like, we're all going to do this and have a great time. And you're like, really?
Yes. Also, as an extension of that, forced fun, which is a team activity, has been badly branded as team building because two people want to do paintball and they want to get the business to pay for it. There's a massive difference between team building and a team activity.
Yeah.
And I mean, I could talk for hours on that. I won't, because we've only got a short amount of time. But most importantly, it's something that people need to start getting very clear on. Is this a team activity? Is this team building? Because they have vastly different outcomes and also vastly different participation expectations. A team activity is not compulsory. Team building, while compulsory is the word I hate, should be all-inclusive because it is the team gelling and building and connecting, ironically, sometimes literally with the Lego, together in the activities that they're doing. And those activities aren't necessarily all just fun and mischief. It's often strategic thinking, future site planning, all of these things that can have a fun and playful and creative element to them, as opposed to sort of a mundane, boring, another day closer to death kind of experience that some of that stuff ends up being. And that's where all of those things need to be very, very clearly defined. One, please stop forcing fun on people. It's never fun. They hate you. They will leave. Fact. Number two, make sure if you're calling it team building, it's team building and it's not a team activity.
Couldn't agree more. Couldn't agree more. I'm going to, for number 5, I'm between a couple, but I'm going to use exit interviews.
Ooh, good one.
Now, you're going to lose staff.
Yes.
This isn't watertight, and you want to lose staff. You want people to leave. You want people to understand that once they've got to a certain level, and you want people to progress their career, that they can't stay with you forever. Yes. That's absolutely fine. There are glass ceilings everywhere in an organization where you can't move people on, and there's going to be a long wait before they get an opportunity. And you want people to be successful. You want to be a business that creates people that puts value in your industry that you work in.
Yes.
Some people don't, but the majority, if we think about it from a HR perspective, we want people to grow. Exit interviews normally are just a quick survey, filled in, filed away, never looked at again.
Yeah.
But the exit interview gives you every little detail, if done properly, every detail of how a person's feeling, how they arrived at destination leave, the steps that happen to get you there. And you can use exit interviews to retain staff. And it should be, not the annual survey. Couldn't give a crap about that. Don't say that word. Because it gives you a snapshot in time.
In the bin.
It tells you a month of a year. And people always put the pressure on. We're trying to do better on the best companies survey. So they're trying to make you score higher anyway. Annual survey doesn't matter in terms of staff retention and stuff like that. You'll get some information from it. Yes. Look into it, glean into it and stuff like that. Exit interviews are the critical way to understand how someone's arrived at destination leave. And if you can try and find 5, 10, 15, 20 things in a year that you can tweak that make people happier because of why people have left, you will retain more staff. You will be infinitely better. So my number 5 is,
I think
exit interviews.
As an even further extension of that, especially if it's been a great employee. Now, as you said, some people leave because they need to leave for any number of reasons. But if you've had that high performer that is moving on because it's the right career move for them, which, as we said, is the right career move for you as well, because you don't want to keep somebody that will then ultimately disengage, and you exit them properly, they're going to leave with a whole bunch of things. Number one, they're leaving an advocate for your business.
Yep.
So they might be telling their mates to go and work for you. And they'll be going, no, you should work there. They're amazing. It's just not the right place for me in my career because I want to take this jump. And there is no role like that in their business. But you know what? You could actually maybe do my role and you should go and talk to them. So that's your recruitment potentially shortened in a great deal. Number two, they might leave and move into a similar industry, similar type of collaborative thing where there could be a customer or a supplier, which could potentially get you better rates. That'll put money on the bottom line. And finally, and this is the thing that so many people that get in exit interviews wrong forget. What about when they're ready to make the next move in their career? So if I've exited well here and you've looked after me and I'm like, oh, Maze balls, you should go work with these guys over here and their business is amazing and all of a sudden it's time for me to now make my next step. The first place I'm phoning is you. I'm phoning you going, hey, James, listen, I'm thinking about making a move. I don't suppose you guys have got anything at this level or in this type of role in your business. Now, you might not, but you might go, oh, I will in 3 months. So I'm going to say yes. And then I'm going to create the role because that person is an asset, left as a great thing. In the time they've been away, they've referred us work or we've got good deals from them as a supplier. They're going to come on board faster. There's going to be less recruitment cost. They're going to get up to speed quicker. So they can put money on your bottom line quicker. All of this is the butterfly effect of a great exit process.
Not to mention recruitment fees for higher ranking staff and all that costs, and then people that can come in, culture fit, and there's looking after people as they leave is just it's the ultimate way to hopefully have benefit in the future. And think about the skills that they've learned somewhere else.
Yeah, exactly.
They might be the key to unlocking the next major growth because they've gone somewhere else. Exactly. There's so many benefits to exit interviews.
They've grown on somebody else's dime, as they would say in the phraseology. So they did what they could on your dime, and somebody else benefited from that. And now you're potentially benefiting from them growing on somebody else's and then returning back to you. It's a total no-brainer to me to make your exit process slick, compassionate, empathetic, brilliant, transparent. Oh, I wonder where we've heard that today. And intentionally part of your culture to put money on your bottom line. I know we've spoken about cost of recruitment. The minimum cost is 300% of that person's salary to replace them if they've disengaged and left.
Which is just extraordinary. And if you want to understand those numbers, just message Rory. He will explain how it's 300% cost to anyone who asks. So if you're like, no, not chance on this earth, it costs 300% to replace a staff member's annual salary. I can tell you, I said that, and I sat down and did the maths, and we worked it all out and stuff like that. So please reach out. He will give you the numbers on it.
Always maybe.
And yeah, it's scary when you start to consider all the variables. Okay, so just summarizing this up, because obviously we're running out of time. Number one, I went for transparency. Rory went for systems. When it's coming to staff retention, making sure that your systems are good. Onboarding specifically, a great onboarding experience leads to a faster engaged employee. Obviously, mine was transparency in terms of making sure people know what's expected of them, where the company is in its situation, just letting everyone be part of it. Number two, Rory went for impartial eyes, getting someone in. It doesn't have to be an external consultant. It can be someone from a different department. It could be, this is why senior management meetings are meant to be really impactful, so that you've got different people looking at different systems. None of this protection. It's mine. You are not allowed to comment on what's mine. I know what I'm doing. My number two, maternity returns. So much money is lost to the economy because we don't re-onboard people coming back from maternity leave correctly. So my number two was maternity. Number three, you went for fractional CPO, which is bringing in someone to focus on a completely element when the business has a big project going on over here. Get someone involved on a fractional level. Think of it as consultancy. Think of it however you wish, but bringing someone in to fix a problem is sometimes better than bringing in, than trying to do too many things at once. Not everyone can spin every plate. I went for a basic question. which is tell me how we can do better, which I stole from Michelle Reed. Number 4, Rory went for culture and building a culture of we, not me.
Yeah.
And I went for investment in training. The next one, Rory went for play, not forced fun, but play, and reintroducing play back in the workplace so people can have a game of table tennis or throw some darts or have some juggling balls. I learned to juggle in my first job because they gave us juggling balls. Play is fun. It's people engage and people have fun with each other, especially, you know, something as simple as juggling balls can make a really good impact because I was on an automated dialer just throwing a ball in the air. And my number 5 was exit interviews. Exiting people to your business correctly will help them come back. Hopefully even more skilled, even better, and it creates advocacy. Advocacy creates opportunities where people want to work for your business, which saves you recruitment costs and people fighting for a job. This has been Let's Talk HR. This has been 10 ways to increase staff retention with Rory Berry from Rory Berry, our retention specialist. If you do have any questions, if there's anything that you think you can't believe we've not said, but how dare we have not brought this up, put it in the comments. Let's talk about it, and maybe we need to do 10 more. Maybe we need to do 20 more. Let us know, and we will catch you on the next one. Thank you very much, Rory, for joining me today. Thank you very much, Yoda in the background, and a very slight appearance from the cat.
Miller popped in as well.
We will catch you on the next one. Take care.
Thank you so much for having me.